Welcome back to the Human Nexus podcast. My name is Andrew Brazis. I'm a business and marketing consultant and private chef.
Welcome back. My name is Miss Laura Machiste. I am a YouTube tarot reader, holistic massage therapist, and energy coach. And today we are doing Astro Talks Part 5 because there's so much going on in astrology right now with eclipse season that we just have to talk about it before the time passes and we miss this window of opportunity.
Yeah.
So, astrologically, has anything been standing out for you since we had this eclipse as a Leo
This,
sun? Anything?
yeah. So it's been interesting because, well, Friday or tomorrow, the 20th I think it's the 20th, is the start of the astrological new year, right? And I feel like just my life has been going in this trajectory and things have slowly started to halt. And this past
Mhm.
week, it's been like, I would say maybe past 2 weeks even, give or take a couple of days, as everything is kind of like slowed down. And as that's happening, I'm seeing things ramp up in the next week, if that makes like it hasn't happened yet, but I just like the way meetings are going and like conversations that I'm having, it's like, oh, things might start taking off
Right.
in a couple of weeks. And so it's just really interesting to like see that. And then also the retrogrades. The last Mercury retrograde I had, which was in December, I had a client who had card issues. Well, when Mercury retrograde started this time, I had another client, different client, completely different, same thing, card issues. And it
Mm.
was like it was their card was expired, and it was just an interesting theme to see, continue to play out. But that's really it for me. Nothing like big, crazy.
So with the eclipse, you didn't feel anything crazy happen over there? What are your nodes in?
Um, my north node is Sagittarius. I actually looked this up because of the eclipse.
Okay. So it's
And I
not your nodes that are being hit at the moment.
Yeah, and my south node, I don't know. What's the opposite? Wouldn't it be the opposite of Sag?
I believe
Is it
Sagittarius sister sign
is it Cancer?
is no, Cancer is Capricorn sister sign, but you're close. Sagittarius? Libra?
I think Libra sounds right.
Yeah, I think it is Libra.
Mhm.
So your north node is in Sagittarius?
Yeah. Is that I don't know what's that mean?
All right, so if your north node is in Sagittarius and your south node was in Libra,
Hmm.
that means your like life's debts of like past lives that you lived,
Hmm.
you might have been like a judge, you might have been like a lawyer, you might have
Hmm.
been like a mediator, somebody who was trying to establish fairness.
Hmm.
And now with your North Node in Sagittarius, it's like letting go of that, letting people figure it out on their own and expanding on your own.
Which
Like
is that's
Sagittarius, they don't care. They're like, all
okay.
right,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's really interesting because I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, which is the peacemaker. And so so I've been like healing a lot of those wounds over the last, couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Uh, so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. What's your
Damn.
North Node?
My North Node is in Scorpio and my South Node is in Taurus. So
Mhm.
Taurus, life debts, like I had a lot of difficult eating situations
Mhm.
with just unhealthy dynamics with food. What's another one with Taurus? Lethargic,
Interesting.
overspending. In a past life, I could have been like a really large, like in back in the day, the bigger you were, the more royal it seemed like you are
Mhm.
because you had money to
Yeah,
spend
you
and
have like
get
wealth
food.
to eat and spend. Yeah.
Yeah, I was probably an obese royal in one of my past lives that
Interesting.
just was like, you do everything for me, give me all the
You're just
meals.
like
And
overindulgent.
right. So now in this lifetime, I'm a North Node Scorpio. So that is a total removal of materialistic energy. So not being attached to materialistic energy, not being attached to people, not being
Yeah.
attached to things, and just like being okay with letting them go, which, majority of my life, I go through things and I'm like, damn, I've been hoarding this for how long? And I still won't get rid of it. I'll just find a different place for it to go. And that's
Yeah.
that North Node Scorpio telling me like, no, yeah, you could probably get rid of it. Like, how often do you really need that?
That's so interesting. Yeah, I don't it just going back to like the eclipse, it was I think the biggest thing for me was realizing where relationships were like in friends. Like I'm realizing who has similar interests and who doesn't.
Leo just
Um,
got that big theme in their
yeah.
reading, actually.
Yeah, so that really resonated with me a lot. So like that movement has definitely been shifting. Um, and then there was another thing of like well like okay, so I do marketing, right?
Hmm.
And I'm realizing that I thrive more in the business or like the coaching side, the consulting side, like the one-on-ones and like helping people. And so and I have this, I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but I have this program that's like built out. I just haven't launched it yet. And so
Hmm.
now I'm like, well, maybe it's time to just do that. So like that's been happening. So
Right.
yeah, but that's all internal stuff. It's not, well, I guess the friend stuff is external, but yeah.
Well, I have 2 points to make on that with what you said, because it's so interesting that you are finding more comfortability in helping other people with the
Mhm.
coaching side of it. Like I said before, your North Node is in Sagittarius, so you want to expand, but you also want to be around energies that also want to expand.
Yeah,
So
100%.
your so your best case scenario is just situating yourself in a position where you are helping people expand, opposed
Hmm.
to minor tweaks and this and that. You're like, no, 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 no. This is how you're going to expand. This is how you're going to take off. This is how you're going
Hmm.
to feel like you have a larger playing field. So you're the energy that's going to help people feel that way, which is probably why you feel more comfortable doing that.
Yeah, which is so interesting. What about you? I mean, you had your birthday,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
big. Yeah.
Um, well, as a Pisces sun myself, who got the eclipse around that time
Hmm.
of my birthday, a friend theme came up for me too, actually. And I am a
Yeah.
Leo moon.
Hmm.
And I was explaining to them, that was the second point I was going to say. Um, I don't know if it's because of the eclipse or not, but subconscious energy seems to be coming out. Things that you
Hmm.
absorb that you don't realize you're absorbing until you
Yeah.
realize that you have.
Yeah.
So it seems like, at least right now, of what I'm picking up from the Leo readings lately, which happened to me, and now you brought up the theme as well, of like figuring out who you could be subconsciously absorbing without realizing, and realizing that it doesn't mean that these people are bad people. It's
Yeah.
just that their belief system, whether you think it's going to, even if the personality mind is like, no, I
Hmm.
don't absorb people like that. I'm not this. I'm not. Your subconscious is,
Yeah.
no matter what. So if you're around someone who's always complaining that they, you know, have to work, then subconsciously, when you have to sit down to work, you're going to have that little annoyance, even if you
Hmm.
love your job. But because you're around that person who hates going to work, your subconscious is picking up on it. And I feel like a lot of people during eclipse season are going to realize just whose mindset you have been absorbing without realizing. I think this eclipse season is going to show it very strongly, because I see it already happening.
Yeah. No, I would agree. What else? Any other like big, I don't know, changes,
Um,
movements?
I've been really well, I'm a Pisces sun, although my North Node and South Node are not in this node's position.
Hmm.
I have been feeling more of doing readings more, taking time more off from the suite.
Hmm.
It's almost like the Pisces sixth sense wants to be used during the nodes being in
Hmm.
it. It's like, all right, like let's enhance your intuition. Let's get more downloads. Let's do things differently. I've been realizing that I don't even know if you could tell in this moment, but I've been talking a little bit slower. And I'm usually like not like that. I'm usually going like a mile a minute. But I could tell when I was doing a reading and I was like, oh, wait, I got to get to the all signs portion already. So I've been definitely feeling the need to like slow down a little bit more and focus more on the spiritual side of life a little bit more. And I felt myself disassociating from reality
Yeah.
when the year started.
Hmm.
So now that I'm here, I'm realizing it's not like disassociating to the reality. It's just giving more time to the other reality, giving more
Yeah.
time to Miss Machiste's reality that she's created, opposed to always feeling like I have to bend over backwards and put my 100,000% into 7 people a day. That's body work. And it's just so much different on my body.
Mhm.
So I'm starting to like exclusive myself a little bit more and saying, like, you know what? This was open. People knew,
Mhm.
and you can do readings that day.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's been happening to me. And crazy actually too. A lot of the times when we take off subconsciously, we're like in a lack mindset. We're like, all right, well then if I take off, that means I don't have money coming in and this, that, and the
Mhm.
other. The universe works in mysterious ways, which we will do another episode about this of universal surprises. That was actually
Mhm.
might have supposed to have been this episode.
Yeah, it's
But
okay.
to throw a little bit of like a something in there, I have readings up for sale, but I don't push them. If I
Mhm.
remember to tell people I have readings, then I remember to jot down below. Um, I took the week off. I had someone book a reading. I had a random tax refund come back in, and a
Oh, dope.
subscriber like sent me money on PayPal. And I was
That's
just
nice.
like, oh,
Yeah.
there's my week.
Yeah.
And I was off. So it was just really crazy.
That's really good. And it's like I think well, this goes to maybe the next episode, but the universe does like if you listen and you're paying attention, you do get rewarded in those strange ways, you
And
know?
not that I feel like I like should have been rewarded. It was a very surprising moment for
Mhm.
me, but it also gave me a sense of ease where it was kind of like, see, you don't have to work like
Yeah.
a maniac.
Yeah, you don't have to like run
You
yourself into the ground to be
right.
successful. Yeah.
You will be taken care of in the ways that you feel like you need to be taken care of when those times are needed.
Hmm.
And that's basically exactly what happened to me. And it was pretty cool. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting any of it. And I was like so grateful for it all. But it was just like a really, how is it that that happened that week? The government doesn't know I took off this week.
Yeah.
Whoever booked the reading didn't know I took off this week. I mean, the person who sent me something on PayPal was just like a happy birthday tip from a
Yeah.
subscriber. Shout out to you if you're watching this video. Love you, saw it. I don't know if I should like post it on my community page and like thank them. Like I don't know like how that works, but
I don't
I
know.
was thinking of
I
like
don't think there's a
thanking
wrong
them.
answer.
Yeah, I was thinking of like thanking them in like my next video that I record like at the end or in the beginning or something like that. But yeah, no, I would say I've been pretty calm around this time, getting a lot of signs and synchronicities. I just feel like I'm way more in the spiritual vibrations than anything else. But
Yeah.
Aries season is coming up, and that usually brings up an oomph in the energy. So I'm just going to try to stay
Yeah,
relaxed.
tell me if you feel differently, but I feel like for me, it's been like this week has been like a bridge to this new or different reality. And like
Hmm.
all the stuff leading up to that, let's say the beginning of Venus retrograde was like for me like very clear, like, oh, okay, this is ending. These things are starting, but don't, it's not starting yet, but here it is. These are the things that are going on. And there's going to be like the part where you're like walking across the bridge where there's like nothing to do. You're just like, okay, I'm just existing until I get to the other side kind of thing.
Yes, we're in the land in between.
Yeah.
There's a card that's called that in one of my
Mm.
decks. It's literally called the land in between. And it actually is a piece of land, and a bridge.
Yeah.
So
That's how I
they
feel.
do say that too. I think like eclipses are like the bridge to the next energy or the next season, which we
Hmm.
have an eclipse season at the end of fall, which brings in winter, and we have one at the end of winter that brings in spring. So probably that different type of vibration of just like walking into the new life. And it could be the new life that you want, or it could be the same type of dynamic. It's just really up to how you free willingly are navigating that. And I definitely feel like a lot more people are getting into wanting to create different for themselves and not wanting to be the same. A lot of people had changes in relationships around this time, like breakups, divorces, or even like meeting somebody like that
Hmm.
feels like something instant can happen at this time. Like those quick type of things where it's like, all right, I've been thinking about doing this for 2 years and now I'm finally doing it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Mercury retrograde?
Well, Mercury is always that energy of like car, phone, trips, things like that, communication. But at the same time as a Venus retrograde, I would say it's a little bit more heightened in the fact of like, you know what I feel with both of those types of retrogrades at the same time? It's like not knowing how to receive compliments. You know when someone's complimenting you and you like
You're
don't
just
know
like,
how to receive
yeah.
it? You almost like come out of your body, and then when you're back
Mhm.
in your body, you realize like you didn't say thank you, or you didn't compliment them back, or you kind of just
Mhm.
like were zoned out. You're like, "Oh, thanks." I feel like a lot of that's going to happen during Mercury and Venus retrograde. It's going to
I
be a little hard
actually,
to receive those types of things.
I had two compliments from people over the last week, and they were really kind, but they're just people who've one was previously in my life who no longer is, and someone who's a friend, but we're not super close. And it was that I it just came out of the blue, and I was just like, I don't know how to accept that. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, 100%.
And I feel like that is very telling for it to be at the same time of eclipse season.
Hmm.
Because think about you can't like not you specifically,
Yeah.
but it's so hard to receive a compliment in the physical, yet we're sitting there asking the universe for all of these things. But when somebody simply says that you have a nice shirt on and you're
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, thank you. The universe is probably like, damn, I'm not trying to freak her out with giving her all
Yeah.
these blessings. So I didn't realize that until one of the oracle decks that I had. And it explained that when you are given something and you push it away, you're technically showing the energy that you're not open to receive, and then you don't get things or you don't
That is
receive what you
interesting.
want.
Yeah. So we're not being open, not being open to receive, even though it's the thing
Right.
you're trying to call in.
Right. And you can reject something, but the key to that is to still be grateful that it came through. So if you're like, oh no, that's not for me, and then you leave it like that, that's aligning the energy with, okay, non receival mode. But if you say, oh, that's not for me, but I'm so grateful for this opportunity to reach me, that's moving the energy along where it's saying, all right, next, what else do we have for
Okay,
them?
that's
And it
good.
took me a while to realize that.
That's so in my like daily routine I do journaling, right?
Mhm.
Usually in the morning. And I try to get down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. And I don't do it often enough, but when I try to put in those 3 to 5 things, something that I didn't want that was, I don't know, maybe it was a bad experience or a fallout with a client or I don't know, like a fallout with a relationship, whatever it was.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's important to highlight those things for sure, just for like mental health clarity. So like doubling how the universe responds to it, I think too is important.
Isn't it so crazy too that you were just intuitively doing it anyway? A
Yeah.
lot of the times that happens. We're just intuitively doing something and then someone says it and we're like, oh, how'd I know to
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah. It's so interesting. What
It's the
about
collective.
what about the retrogrades in general? So I don't know what Virgo stands for, like Virgo retrograde. What is that affecting?
Venus retrograde.
Sorry,
So
Venus
Venus is
retrograde.
the ruler of Libra and Taurus. Venus
Hmm.
is all pleasures in life. So a lot of people may make a purchase around this time that they end up
Hmm.
regretting, whether it just sits there and collects dust or they can't afford the payment plans in the future. I would not buy a car during Venus retrograde. I know Mercury retrograde does like the car situation, but like
Hmm.
anything luxurious or materialistic is Venus. So overspending could be a thing.
Hmm.
What's the word I'm looking for? You know what could be happen around Venus retrograde? People who get like Botox and fillers, botched faces,
Oh no.
going to get a haircut, you tell them you only want this much off, and then they cut off this much, and then you walk out of
Hmm.
the hair salon and you're like, why the heck did I do that? So like anything
Interesting.
that has to do with like looks,
Hmm.
um, like stability, luxury,
Hmm.
things along those lines. Like I wouldn't take out a loan during Venus retrograde.
Dang. What about relationships? Is Venus?
Reflection and review,
Yeah, because I keep hearing or seeing that like Venus retrograde is exes are coming back, and or is that Mercury or am I?
both, which
Yeah.
is crazy because They both are seemingly so amplifying themselves at the same time. Venus retrograde is going to highlight something different. Mercury retrograde is going to highlight the communication aspect of it. How does the
I
person
see.
come back in?
I see.
Venus retrograde is going to amplify how is the person treating you with their return? Are
Mhm.
they treating you like how they treated you 5 years ago and they have not grown and evolved? A lot of times people only come back so you can see how much you've grown from that relationship. So if they come back in and you two are still in that same vibration and you didn't haven't talked to this person for 2 years, that's going to give you a direct indication of how much you've grown and vice versa. If someone comes in and you're like, oh, how do they think they can write to me or say these things or treat me this way upon a return? I'm no longer like that.
Mm.
That is then the reflection of the growth. But it is not easy. And a lot of the times, like, that's why I felt so bad for Leo, actually. They kept getting the return card and it wouldn't
Listen,
stop.
I've been getting that for at least since this time last year.
Oh,
Like p
years.
pretty consistently.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and nothing, I have nothing to speak of. Like there's no returns have happened. So,
Hmm.
um, but it's been getting closer to this retrograde. It's been like more intense, like
Right,
showing up in
right.
readings. Uh,
Right. Doesn't always have to be romantic people though. Sometimes it's platonic people. And with that type of like I said with Leo, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if
mhm.
they get this return card one more time, I'm going to freak out. I have to talk about
Yeah,
something different. Like I just can't do this anymore."
yeah,
And then I realized I was like, "All right, so that's probably like a big thing for them where it's probably platonic business relationships,
mhm,
romantic relationships, how you treat strangers on the street.
mhm.
You might see an acquaintance that you saw like 3 years ago that stood out, and then you see them again in a store. Like the broadness to it is very broad, and I feel like a lot of mainstream astrology just goes to, all right, let's see what X comes back, and this, that, and the other, but it's not always like that per se.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've been fine.
What
It
about
was also my birthday though, so that's also an excuse stimulator. So
for you? Yeah.
anybody's birthday season, people return.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
What about like a solar flare, like solar activity? Have you gotten into any of this? So,
Like the sun?
yeah, so I'm a Leo sun, right? And it was not this previous Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, there was like a big solar flare. That evening and that Monday, I was in like super depressive mode. I was like
Mm-hmm.
laying on my floor for 6 hours. Like it was just like I chalked the whole day, pretty much. And it came out of nowhere. And I was like, well, maybe this thing is correlated because everything else is fine. Like there's no, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with anything that has to do with the sun, you
Mhm.
guys are going to feel it the most and first, and then the collective will also feel it. So, solar flares, like what they indicated that like the flares expanded around the sun, or got stronger or lessened.
It was just like a big solar flare burst. I don't know.
Like
I'm
kind of
not,
like an explosion of it.
yeah. And it shot a bunch of like radiation to the earth, is what they
Right.
say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the sun is going to do what it's going to do. I'm not 100% certain on those types of things, and I don't
Mhm.
talk or give any indication if I don't really
Yeah.
know what it is. But I will definitely look it up after we get off of here. But I did see something about the sun that came out like not too long ago where it was like even on a news article too, where they said like the sun's solar capacity has gotten stronger within the last like whatever amount of time, and they don't know if it's because of like the atmosphere and the ozone layer thinning, or is the sun really getting closer, or this, that, and the
Oh
other.
shit.
So that might actually have something to do with what you saw,
Yeah.
read up, and experienced as well.
Mm.
But as somebody who's a Leo sun, you not only, I mean, you already know this though, you are in the lunations. So the sun and the moon will affect you
Yeah.
just as equal. The sun maybe a little bit more, but the moon will also get you.
Yeah. And I do feel that too. Like full moons, I usually like hermit almost
Right.
always.
Yeah.
And new moons, I usually, and maybe that's backwards, but new moons, I usually feel like I'm like ready to go party, like go
Right,
out and
right.
do things.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes
We're
sense. Okay. So one of the things I did notice astrologically that like I don't know if I did notice this before and like I just finally like brought awareness to it, but I realized that Cancer season follows, or Leo season follows Cancer season. So I find it so interesting that that Cancer is ruled by the moon and Leo's ruled by the sun, and they're directly next to each other on the zodiac wheel.
That is interesting.
I don't know exactly why or whatever,
Hmm.
but I just recently realized that. I don't know if it was because of eclipse season per se, but I was like, I wonder if there's something with that to where because they're next to each other and they share those like home planets that collide with each other as well during eclipse
Well, I
season.
think too, they're both like governing bodies. Like the
Right.
sun is the governing body of the solar system, and the moon is the governing body for Earth in a way.
Hmm.
I don't know if that matters or not, but
Yeah, I'm sure the ancients figured it out or they knew something connected to that. But I just thought that was so interesting because I'm like, it's not like Cancer season is like now, and then Leo
Mhm.
season's like a couple seasons away. So I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. If anyone has any type of indication or possible thought on that, let us know in the comments. Or how this eclipse season is going for you, as well as the retrogrades we are having.
Yeah, we would love to know. Thank everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one. Bye.